Please welcome to the stage, Daralyse Lyons!
So I'm 5 years old, and I feel incredibly special and incredibly loved. And I think part of it has to do with the fact that I am the only child of a single mother. And my mom adores me. She just thinks that I am the best thing ever. And she has this boyfriend who also thinks that I am the best thing ever. And I call him SD, which is short for stepdad. And he calls me baby girl. Because I am his favorite. And he actually has a child of his own, a biological son, but I am still his favorite. Somehow I managed to get that favorite child spot, and I revel in it. I am just so lit up by the love of the adults in my life and the people around me. And so one day, my mom is not at home, and SD lives with us at the time. And so one day my mom's not at home, which is nothing new because I spent a lot of time with him. And we were playing, and I crawled up on his lap, and I was sitting on his lap, and suddenly I felt something hard and uncomfortable, and I didn't quite know what it was, but we were playing, and I still felt so special, and I was still his baby girl. And then we started talking, and I don't remember how this happened, but I remember him saying something about what it felt like for adults to kiss. And I asked what it was like, because I didn't know. I was just a little kid. I'd been kissed on the cheek. I'd been kissed on the forehead. And he said, "Why don't I show you?" And then our tongues were dancing, and I felt lit up again, and I felt loved, and I was just that baby girl, but I could feel that thing getting harder, and I didn't want it to, but at the same time I just wanted to be cherished, and I knew that he was cherishing me. And when it was over, I couldn't get off his lap fast enough, and I didn't know quite why it was wrong, but I knew that there was something not quite right about it. And I knew enough not to tell my mom, because he was my SD. He was the father figure in my life, and I didn't want that to be taken away. So time went on, and I was still his baby girl and still his favorite. And he still had his son, who I'll call Oliver, and his son would come and stay with us sometimes. And his son was 7 years older than me. And oh my gosh, he was the light of my life, this boy, Oliver. He was the most beautiful, the most magnificent boy I'd ever seen. And he was kind of like my brother, but I also had this crush on him because he was older. And most of the time he didn't pay any attention to me because I was just some twerp. But every once in a while I'd be eating popcorn on the couch, and he'd come over and he'd put his grubby fingers in my popcorn, and we'd like brush fingers, and I was all lit up inside, and I just wanted him to pay attention to me. And so usually he wouldn't, but every once in a while when my mom wasn't home, SD and Oliver would take me into the kitchen, and they'd point me towards the fruit bowl. And the first time it happened, I didn't know what to do, but after they taught me what to do, I did. And so I'd take a banana out of the fruit bowl, and I'd peel it very tenderly because I knew enough to be careful. And then I would stick the banana into my mouth as deep as I could, and I would move back and forth on the banana the way that they taught me to. And they would comment about how one day I was going to make some man so happy. And I really just wanted to make both of them happy because, they were the people who mattered most to me, other than my mother, and they were certainly the people who loved me the most. And I knew, I got really good at what I was doing with the banana, and so I could, not use my teeth and not gag, and I just felt like, wow, I've got this skill. But again, I didn't tell my mother because I knew that if she knew, I might not have access to this love anymore. So then, fast forward, and I'm 10 years old. And Oliver comes to stay with us for a whole summer. And I feel so lucky that he's going to be with us for the whole summer. Only he still pays absolutely no attention to me most of the time. And And our parents, SD and my mom, put us in the same camp. And so we're going to the same camp together. And, he's hanging out with all the cool kids. I'm this 10-year-old and he's 17. And, he's hanging out with the girls who wear bikinis. And I'm still stuck in this one piece. And, all his friends know that rim jobs have nothing to do with cars. And, I'm just so out of the loop. And he's this dark, honey-colored guy. And he's tall and he's broad-shouldered. And I am in love with him. And he's my first ever crush. And I just want him to want to spend time with me. And then one hot summer day, when our parents are out of the house, I'm up in my bed. I have this big, tall bed that I climb up to with a ladder, and it's got this cool desk that pulls out underneath. And I have these Little Mermaid sheets because I'm still young enough to believe in Disney princesses. And I want to be like Ariel, I want to be a mermaid. And I don't know enough yet to know or to even sort of internalize that in order to get the guy, she had to lose her voice. And, she had to sort of be kissed in order to regain her ability to speak. And I didn't really put two and two together back then because I just still thought wow, love is magic. Love is real. So anyways, I'm upstairs, I'm up in my bed and there's a knock on my door. And I say, come in. And the door swings open. And there's Oliver standing in the doorway, looking just as delectable and broad-shouldered as ever and smiling. He has this shark-like smile. And so that's something about him. We used to call him the shark because he would open up the refrigerator door, go in, take one thing out, take a bite of it and put it back. And so we were always opening the refrigerator door and getting these surprises that there were missing pieces of things. And we'd laugh about that all the time. We laughed about a lot in our house. We laughed about the time when all of us were really hungry. And SD, none of us wanted to go to the grocery store, and SD said that Oliver had to go. And so he went and he found $100 bill in the aisle. And so he came home with this $100 bill and he's waving it in my face like some green flag of victory, right? And SD made him split the money with me. And when Oliver protested, he said, you know what, either you're going to give her half or you're going to give her the whole thing because that's my baby girl and she's my favorite. And I felt really superior in that moment to be the favorite. But I also knew that Oliver was my favorite and I wanted to be his favorite too. So that day when he knocked on my door and swung it open and smiled that shark-like smile at me, and he said, do you want to come and play? I said, absolutely. And I could not get down off of my bed fast enough. And I ran after him. I sprinted into the hallway and I followed his 17-year-old broad-shouldered body down the hall to his bedroom. And, and I was just 10 and still believing in fairy tales and love. And he opens the door and I go in with him. And I don't know what game we're going to play, but I know that I just want to do anything that he wants to do with me. And then the door shuts behind us and I hear the lock click. And I don't know why he's locking the door because our parents aren't home. So then he tells me that I have to do to him what I did on all those bananas. And I don't say no. But I also don't say yes. And before I know it, I'm down on my knees and I'm bobbing on his banana. And I can feel his hand on the back of my head. And I can't get away. And I can't stop and I can't scream and I feel trapped. I don't quite know what it is that I'm tasting, but I know that it's very uncomfortable and I don't feel the way that I want to feel playing with this man that I love. And then with my head held in place, I swallow his semen and I swallow my shame. And when I look up and we lock eyes and I still love him just as much. But I know that he's never going to love me back the way that I want him to love me, because I know that something about me is now tainted and broken, that I'm never quite going to get it back. And I think that I'm going to be able to keep this a secret, like I've kept everything else a secret, but I can't. And after a few months, I tell my mom the truth about what happened. And she wants to get Oliver in trouble. She's really angry at him, and she says she wants to get him in trouble, that he did something wrong. And I don't want him to be in trouble because I still love him. And so I tell her that. And she gets angry at him. And then she gets angry at me. And I get angry at me, but I can't get angry at him because I'm still in love with him. And I'm not sure anymore, because so much time has passed. I'm not sure if she cut them, Oliver and SD, out of our lives, or if I cut them out of our lives. But I know that there was a dividing line between when I had these two men in my life and in my corner, and when I was their baby girl, and adulthood, and when I wasn't. So anyways, eventually I get older, and both Oliver and SD, they reach out to me again, and I tell them that I don't want anything to do with them. And Oliver, he writes me letters from prison. He went to prison years later. I don't quite know what he did, but he would tell me that I was the one that got away and I was the love of his life. And I would tell him that I didn't feel the same. I don't feel the same. And then a couple years ago, I get a random message on Facebook from a family friend, and she says, do you know what happened to your SD? And I said, no, what happened? And she said, he died in a motorcycle accident. And I said, oh my God. And she goes, I'm going to send you something. And so she sends me a copy of his obituary, and I read it. And in the obituary, where it lists surviving relatives, it lists Oliver as his son, and it lists me as his daughter. And so I read it, and I start to laugh, and I start to cry, because my feelings still to this day are messy and they're confusing. And there's a few things I know. I know that I still, if I'm going down on someone, I still can't have them put a hand on the back of my head. And I know that I still can't eat bananas. No interest in eating a banana ever again. And I know that I will always love Oliver. And I will always love SD. But I also know that I love myself too much to ever let anyone in my life whose love is hurtful and painful. And I know that I deserve to have a voice, to have a story, and that I am beautiful. And I don't need anyone else to rescue me, because I rescued myself. And so thank you.